I am blessed beyond all measure to be here with people as passionate as you that love what I love. And you know, we're on such a mission, and it's just so vitally important that we maintain this mission and continue on this mission. Being asked to speak here at Life Vision was not devoid of emotions, all the way from great excitement to nervousness to what if I forget what I'm going to say? What if I just freeze? Well, here we are, so you get what you get here. We'll see. How many of you are frustrated with anything? Frustrated with anything in life? What about you students? Are you frustrated with anything? How many of you are frustrated? I'm frustrated. That's part of life. I'm frustrated that insurance companies keep raising their deductibles. I'm frustrated that insurance companies play every trick and use every excuse in the book just so they don't have to pay us anything. I'm frustrated because patients think we have to fix them. And they don't quite understand there's something called personal responsibility. How about this? Something to be frustrated with. I'm frustrated because some of my colleagues decided that they ought to change the law in Georgia. And some great ideas that was needed and necessary, but in the process somebody decides, well, if we change these two little words, it'll simplify it. So here, the simplicity dumped everything that was in the common domain of chiropractic into the PT. So I need to go back to school to get 120 hours of PT credits to put on my transcript so I can legally suggest, maybe you should put some ice on that, maybe heat, stretch a little bit, maybe you should do some exercise. So I re-enrolled at Life in January. And yes, I re-enrolled in Life in January to get my 120 PT credits. And the interesting thing is, I show up to class, 50% of the students could be my children. And the other 50% could be my grandchildren. Whoa, how exciting is that? But not to worry, you know, I show up to lecture, the first lecture, there's 200 students in class. And I look around the room, and 10% of them, probably 10%, have laptops. The other 90% had tablets. Thank God I had my tablet, so I didn't feel out of place. Whew. Yes. Life changes. Life changes. What a blessing that is. So anyway, when I was asked to speak at Life Vision, it was like a breath of fresh air. All this frustration, I get to be with people who I love and I appreciate. And Dr. LaMarche says when I said, yeah, I want to do that, he says, great, let me send you the speaker agreement. And the speaker agreement, now we're back to bossy again. Who's telling me what to do and I can't do this and that? So the speaker agreement, he says, oh, you get to come and speak for free. We're not going to pay you. And also, you have to pay your own way. You have to pay your own lodging. Now, to be fair, there was a few meals that were thrown in. But, and then he says, no foul language. Billy, I'm paving the way for you. No foul language. And I don't know what that means. That means I can't say quack because it's like a duck and that's foul. I'm with a bunch of chiropractors for crying out loud. So, you know, I've had it. You know, and he also says, here's the big one, no sales pitches. So I have to come, I don't get paid, I have to pay my way, and I can't sell you anything. You know, I've had it with people telling me what to do. I've had it with all this frustration. Who's frustrated and is ready to end it? Who's like me is done with it? I want to sell you something tonight. How many of you want me to sell you something? Hurry up, give me support before he throws me off the stage. I want to sell you something. It's going to be the most important, most powerful thing you've ever had. Who cares what it costs? Anybody care what it costs? Thank God, because otherwise you'd have to leave the room. It's priceless. I'm going to sell you, pay attention, I'm going to sell you on you. I'm going to sell you on you. You are the most important being in your entire universe, the most important being to your spouse, your significant other, your kids, your patients. You've got to be there for them. You've got to be there for them. It's important, gang. I was just talking to Andres before he comes up here, and he sees this. He says, oh, you've got some notes. I hope that when I'm been in practice for 20 years, I can have notes like that. He says, mine are pages and pages and pages. Well, here you go, Andres. I was hiding this from you. Pages of my notes. Because we have a mission. We need to find the interference to the innate expression of life. And that's important. That's powerful. And when I start hearing things and seeing people, colleagues of ours that are burned out, they want to quit. After 30 years, well, that's a respectable time maybe. But after 20 years, maybe only after 15 and 10 years, what's up with that? What's up with that? I was having a conversation Saturday, it wasn't even a week ago, with a colleague of ours, Dave Levinson, and he said that he had somebody pull up in a motorhome in front of his office Saturday morning and wanted to come in and get an adjustment. And so Dave says, absolutely you can come in and get an adjustment. He just wanted to know when, where, and who was the chiropractor that he was last adjusted with. So the guy says, well, I'm traveling around the country. I've just come up from Florida 2 weeks ago. I had my adjustment, and I can't remember the chiropractor's name, but he was 90 years old, and he'd been in practice for 70 years. Whew. We are blessed to have the honor of being part of the most magical profession in the world, gang. We're blessed. We need to take that responsibility. And when I start hearing people dropping out and they don't want to work and they don't want to be chiropractors anymore, my purpose and my mission used to be just to find interference, remove the interference. It was that simple, it was that powerful, it was that deep, but it was also that superficial because I could say that. I could feel that, I could act that. My egg got cracked, my whole world got turned upside down in 1998. My mom was diagnosed with cancer of the tongue. She'd never smoked, used any tobacco products. We couldn't figure out how she got that. She was adamant that she did not want to have any medical intervention. She did not want to let anybody else in the family know. And Dad and I agreed to honor her wishes. And so me, being in the healthcare field, I ramped up her chiropractic checks and adjustments, nutritional protocols, took her to all kinds of different alternative healthcare providers, other chiropractors to get different perspectives on the whole thing. And we kept her stabilized really well, little ups and downs, but she did really well for 2 years. And then Dad had his 75th birthday. The whole family comes into town, and now my brothers find out she has cancer. Just like me, on a mission to save Mom, they were too. But they were insist that we had not taken her to the medical doctor. They demanded that we take her to the medical doctor, and Mom just says, what am I to do? She says, you and Dad will understand, but your brothers won't. She cared more about keeping the family together than she did about her own life. And she submitted to the medical care and the medical treatment. Of course, the brothers left, so it was up to Dad and I to run her back and forth to all this stuff, chemotherapy, radiation, and we had kept her stable for 2 years. Within 2 months, she was just totally devastated and destroyed by the medical profession. She has a feeding tube in her stomach. That's how we gave her nourishment. And the doctor's going through that on a weekly basis. They check your blood work. And if it's a little high with this, they give you a little drug to pull it down. A little low, something to pump it up. Well, one time, she has blood work, and her sodium count is a little low. A little low, mind you. And the doctor says to them, and I didn't know this at the time, put 2 tablespoons of salt in her feeding port in the morning. So I get a call. It's a Saturday morning, and it's Dad. And he says there's something wrong with Mom. And I run out of the office, and I rush up to Jasper's, 20-minute drive to get to their house. And she's in a full-blown seizure. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen anybody in a seizure. It's not a pretty sight. But after about 15, maybe 20 minutes, if it's a really bad seizure, they come out of it. Mom was in a full-blown seizure for 12 hours. That's the day I lost my mom. She came out of it totally brain damaged. She hung on for another 12 months. And not 12 months, it was 8 months before she passed. And I was praying that the Lord would take her because she was so, so bad. But when he did, it was the wrong thing because he took my mom away from me. I hated the medical profession. I hated the doctors. I hated my brothers for what they did. I hated God for the fact that he allowed her to suffer like that, so bad, for 8 months. I hated God for not allowing me to help my mom. So I go through all of this, and go through the grieving process, and things start to settle down. And then I start asking, could I have done anything different? Could I have done anything better? I started digging and started looking. I started researching. I started reading more and more things. And what happened, that extreme pain that he put me through and drug me through, turned into a purpose and a passion that was much more powerful than what I had. It wasn't just a superficial understanding of what we do, and it wasn't just reciting what we hear, because we know and feel that that's the right thing. I started to realize that if I'm going to help people like my mom, I need to get better at what I do. I need to become a master. I've been working at being a master ever since. I've got a purpose and a passion. I'm not quitting this profession. I'm not burned out. I'm more on fire than I ever was. And that's... So you have to ask, what is your why? If your why isn't big enough, then you are going to be stuck with all the frustrations that come along, because there's all kinds of crap that you have to deal with, gang. All kinds of stuff on a daily basis. But it's little insignificant stuff if your purpose and vision and why is big enough and strong enough. So you need to get into that, whatever that is to you. You need to get into that. So what we talked about in the beginning, the frustrations and all the BS, and just for your information, Dr. LaMarche, that's belief system, by the way. And it is a belief system. You need to believe that you're doing the right thing, that you know what you're doing. So you can either learn to play the insurance game better, or you can have a cash practice. You can support your patients to take personal responsibility for their health. We don't have patients in our office. They're wellness partners. We start right from day one with that concept of personal responsibility. So going back to school, I got my 120 credit hours. I finished in June. So I started in January of 1978, and I finally finished in June of this year. So a mere 37 and a half years. So I hold the record for the longest student in life's history, and I hope and pray that nobody, especially none of you students, can beat my record. I want to maintain that for a long time. So let me check my notes here. See what I can cut out, and I've cut this down from 10 pages to 4, so. But here's an important thing. We can't just talk the talk. We need to walk the walk. If we're going to talk, we need to also walk. I don't ever ask my patients to do anything that I don't already do. They need to come in and know that I'm a mentor to them. I don't want to have to get up and exercise and work out, but I do. I don't necessarily want to have to eat right all the time, but I do most of the time. You have to take personal responsibility. If you want to be around and be in practice for 35 years, 40 years, 70 years, can you imagine that? If you want to be able to do that, you need a physical body that can do that. You've got to take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, you have no value to your patients. You have no value to anybody else. You've got to be physically, mentally, spiritually capable of taking care of them. So you need to understand that we have a big job to do, that you make a difference. Do not take that responsibility lightly. You make a difference. It's up to all of us to change the world, to help support the people in the world. But we can't do it as a whole unless we each take personal responsibility for that. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for allowing me to share this time with you.
Oh,